Welcome back to another episode of Rockin' with Cam. I am so excited for this episode here. Before we go any further, please, who do I have the pleasure of speaking with?
I am Sharon Kratochvil. I am an associate professor of analytics in the business school here at the University of Bridgeport.
Can you give us a little bit more insight on your career?
Oh, sure. I have been in the analytics field for the past 30 years. I have worked in all manner of companies, from startups to turnarounds to large multinational corporations. I've worked both on the consulting side as well as what's known as the client side. And most recently, I was with Capri Holdings, who own Versace, Jimmy Choo, and Michael Kors. And I was brought in there to build their analytics function and create a center of excellence for the Michael Kors to begin with. And then as we bought additional brands, expand what I had done for Michael Kors to those other brands.
I was a student in your business and or your intro to business and analytics class, and I absolutely enjoyed every single day in class with you. I love learning about what data is. I love learning about what data means. I love learning about what you could do with data. Can you give us a little bit more explanation on what data really is?
Data is literally everything, right? Anything that is trackable first, right? So think any app you have, every interaction with that app is generating data. Anything you buy, anything you, any site you visit online, even if you don't have an app on your phone, right? Any site you visit, it's all creating data. So, for example, you go to your favorite website and you buy something. You're buying soccer cleats, right? You need a new pair. So, you're doing some searching online. All of that searching online, Google is collecting that data on you. Then you're going and doing some exploration with the different sites. So, maybe you're going to Nike or to Puma and you're looking at what they have to offer. All of that's being tracked. So, now Google knows you're in the market for soccer cleats, as do whatever sites you visited. All of that's generating data, and ultimately it results in you purchasing a pair of soccer cleats. And then that's just another type of data. Think of any advertisements you encounter in your online journeys. That's all data that's being collected on you, about you and about your journeys by a whole host of different um, data entities. So it could be Google, it could be Facebook, it could be Instagram, it could be a specific e-commerce site. They're all collecting that data. So in a very real sense, you're a product, just like your soccer cleats are a product. You're a product and you generate data every day, and thousands and thousands of pieces of data.
Something I want people to know and understand is these companies collect data from you, and the real money game is selling your data. Like for example, like companies like Google, their main revenue is from selling data to other companies.
Their main revenue is advertising.
Yeah,
So they're selling, you're the product for Google, right?
yeah.
Your eyes on a search ad, for example, right? You're the product. So they learn everything they can about you. And have you ever been on a website and all of a sudden Google pops up? Do you want to log in with with your Google account?
Yeah.
And that's just so Google can track you in even more places. So they're selling your eyes in a search. So it's actually a transaction. So they create different sorts of models, and a lot of it's, we could classify it as artificial intelligence, but they're saying here's somebody who's interested in soccer cleats, and two companies, and they're going to bid. on your eyes, on their site. So, did you ever see when you do a Google search those sponsored ads?
Yeah.
So, those sponsored ads are people paying to have their ad above whatever your natural search will return so that you see that first. So Google's making money by selling or
Your eyes.
auctioning really those spots off.
One of the most interesting things I loved that I learned in class was cookies. Please explain when you log on a website or when you go on any website and they ask you to accept cookies, what does that mean?
Oh, so now you're talking about one of my favorite topics,
Yeah.
right? So cookies are bits of code, HTML code, that actually collect information. So depending on where your cookie drops, you could have cookies on your browser. And so then anytime you go on your browser, for example, there's a Facebook pixel that's on there, generally dropped on there, and it's picking up all the data. So it's picking up your any unique identifiers on your browser, all the information in various searches. And so cookies are just ways of storing information. So when you go on websites now, you see there's a strictly necessary cookies. So those are so that a website can actually function. And those are tend not to be tracking cookies per se. And then you'll have functional cookies. You'll have analytics cookies. And then you'll have targeting cookies. And now you might even have social media targeting, digital targeting cookies. And those are cookies that are used to collect information for other providers like Meta, so their Facebook and Instagram property, Google, TikTok, so that they can advertise to you either on those platforms, through those platforms, with that data.
That brings me to one of my questions is what are some common no, not that one. How can businesses ensure data privacy while still effectively utilizing data to drive decision making processes? How can they in Is there anything in line or in check to make sure that these companies aren't crossing the line into the data that they are collecting?
So a lot of it's regulatory right now. So GDPR started everything. So the European Union's General Data Protection Regulations, and there are very, very, very stiff fines in the European Union for misuse of data. A lot of states within the United States over the past probably 4 to 5 years are enacting consumer privacy legislation. So that's one side of the coin where there are fairly steep financial penalties for misusing data.
Okay.
Okay. But that's only part of the story, right? It starts with the company itself. No company wants a data breach, right? And you know, they're going to want to some level protect the data and protect your data and my data, because the bad publicity really erodes goodwill in the marketplace. So there's the threat, which is the regulatory side, but then there's the consumer side, where they want consumers to feel safe and comfortable and confident shopping from them. So,
Some sort of ethics within the company itself is kind of
ethics, that's an interesting word. I would say it's kind of self preservation, right? So, almost like um, it's in their own best interest.
yeah.
So, ethics can go either way, but if it's in your own best interest to do something, you're going to do it,
Yeah.
right?
Can you share some real world examples of how businesses have successfully transformed raw data into insights to strategic decision making? You've worked at numerous companies. Can you give us some of your own experiences of how you were able to use data to your advantage?
Oh, sure. And you know, most businesses are really working hard at this. I'm going to give you some examples in two areas in customers, because I worked predominantly in retail. So, how we marketed to customers is one example that I'll share. We created something with our customer data. So, we built a what's known as a single view of customer database. So, we integrated purchase data, any email interactions, any e-commerce site interactions, digital impressions. So we built this very large database around individual customers. So one of the things we did were create what we called and are commonly known as customer value segments. So what is the importance of this customer to the business? And we had 7 customer value segments. So some customers were very willing to buy our products at full price. So if you know Michael Kors, Jimmy Choo, and Versace, those are high ticket items that you're buying. And so if somebody's willing to pay full price, that's a big deal. And why that's a big deal is because of margin, right? So every business wants to do 3 things. It wants to generate revenue as much as they can, manage their costs, and ideally reduce costs to generate the highest degree of profit that they can, right? So, you want to have customers that are, so for example, willing to pay full price. You do not want to send them sale messages, right?
Yeah.
So we used it in part as a method for helping us communicate with our customers. So those customers that are willing to pay full price, we would send them new arrivals information. So the latest and greatest product that's just in, or limited edition products, so that we could tailor their what they received from us to what A, they like to buy, but B, not erode our margins from those customers.
Yeah.
Right? If we start sending them sale messages, then what happens?
They'll pick the cheaper stuff.
Right, because
Yeah.
they're looking at the product and they're saying, oh, this tote is really, really nice. It's got this slight embellishment here, but this other tote, it's the same color, it's the same shape, roughly the same size. I'm going to buy the one that's discounted. So you don't want to do that. But we had another group of customers that only bought on deep discount. So they were our bargain hunters. And so, they were prime people to communicate when we had our sale periods, right?
Yeah.
And so really doing that tailoring to meet the customer's expectations, because the customers who are willing to buy at full price wanted the newest, the best, the most embellished.
Stay updated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the others didn't care quite as much. So you want to give the customers what they want, but also make sure your business is maintaining its margins, for example. The other example I'll give would be with e-commerce, right? E-commerce sites are, it's really important to get customers down from wherever they land on your site to buy.
Yeah.
Okay. And so there's a path, right? You can take. We used to do a lot of testing, and experimentation is, becoming increasingly and more important. So trying to figure out what works. So we would run what's commonly known as A/B tests. So I might try content A versus content B on a homepage. So one might be a lifestyle photo of a woman decked out in Michael Kors clothes with a handbag and shoes, and the other might be products, the latest and greatest handbag in 5 different colors.
Yeah.
And which one
Perform the best.
performed the best, and then you go with that. So it's this constant optimization that you can do because the technology exists and it's largely automated. So we probably ran 30 to 50 tests a year, And each test, think about it, if you get a tenth of a percent increase in a conversion rate,
Yeah.
that could be millions of dollars.
Makes a lot of difference.
It makes a huge difference.
You spoke about AI, right, in the beginning. Did you get to use AI while you were in the field at that time? Because I'm pretty sure it's was all part of that world before everybody else got hands on it.
Okay, so I like to say I've been a data scientist way before data scientists existed.
Yeah.
So my entire career, so all AI is, if you think about it very, very broadly, are ways of looking at a lot of data and making sense of it. So it could be an algorithm, it could be a predictive model, but it's about the automation because there's so much data you can't do it by hand anymore. Okay?
Yeah.
And so I've been building models for 30 years. You know, a company I worked at called RMS years ago, we had what would be called today a SaaS software platform.
Repeat that one more time.
A SaaS software platform, software as a service, SaaS.
Yeah.
And so what it was is it allowed retailers to load their data into this database, and then we had all these capabilities on top. So I was doing recommendations back in 19 probably early mid 90s, was when I built my first recommendation engines. We had embedded, they were called at the time SDKs, but I embedded models in the UI so that a customer could do a sales forecast or
Wow.
a churn analysis. And this was in the mid 90s. So it's the technology is there. What's happened now are the data volumes have grown exponentially, and the technology can manage those data volumes now,
Yeah.
where back in the day that was a tougher challenge. So for us, instead of having all of our data in a cloud database, right, we had individual databases for each of our 26 retailers. And so, so there's some differences, but the technology is largely the same.
Is there any misconceptions about being a data analyst that you'd like to address or you have addressed in your classes?
I don't know if it's misconceptions, but I think with the direction the world is heading in, right? So you have a lot of data, you have people that want things immediately and they want them in certain ways. So with the way the world is going, anything that can be automated
Will be.
is being automated, will be automated. And I think, it's less about writing a program, it's more about critical thinking, curiosity. When I hired people, those were the two key traits that I looked for. You know, are can you critically think? Because that's the crux of the matter today,
Yeah.
right? Is that critical thinking. Why? What's happening and why? So if you don't have that, it's a lot harder. And the people who are successful are critical thinkers. I think in just about anything nowadays, because things have been automated, but you can't just set it and forget it.
Yeah.
You need to be looking and testing and then looking for what's next.
So this brings me to my next sub or topic, kind of like the humanity side of it. With the advancement of all this technology, all this AI, all these data, um, as we go on, less jobs will not or less or more jobs will not demand the need for a human body.
That's a really kind of hot topic.
Yeah.
Is all of this automation, you know, AI, whatever you want to call it, is it, you know, are we losing jobs because of it? And we are losing certain types of jobs, right? So think about ChatGPT. ChatGPT can write some code.
Yeah.
Um, but what you really need is that the right code that you need? So there's a lot more in um, kind of the periphery. So no longer is it, is coding quite as important. It's how do you think about putting together an algorithm, a capability, and putting that together and creating that. So I would say there's a lot more creativity and creative thinking that's required today. I think some of the rote things are going away, and I don't think that's a bad thing because nobody wants to do the rote work.
No.
You
No.
know,
I
so
definitely don't.
I don't either.
Yeah.
But so I think it's a shift, and I think part of the problem is and one of the reasons why I'm here at University of Bridgeport is we're not preparing our students and our employees for that world.
I was going to ask what led you to become a teacher, or what was the drive and motivation to do that?
So every person I hired, I taught analytics. And and that's not bad, but nobody was teaching analytics. Um, one of my team members, she and I decided once we started to see more analytics programs, we dug in on those programs, and we didn't like one of them. We did not, and we did not hire people from that. Most of the people I hired had economics degrees because economics is a discipline that requires critical thinking.
Yeah.
And so I did not like the analytics folks coming out of business analytics programs. So here at the university, the focus is on real world application of concepts. And to me, that's very appealing because that's what I've done my entire career. And I've always felt like I have my PhD and I earned my PhD and made a decision not to go into academia because it was just too theoretical and I was very practical.
Yeah.
So, I went into business, was very successful in business, but always had it in the back of my head that I wanted to go back to teaching, not the academic research kind of thing, but teaching students about the real world application of these concepts. And the university last January put an ad on LinkedIn. I applied, and the more I talked to people, they were all about the real world application. And I was offered the opportunity to develop the undergraduate analytics curriculum. And how could you turn that down?
Yeah.
I've been talking about it for years, They have to teach this, they have to teach that. So it was a chance for me to put my money where my mouth was.
A person like you who's accomplished so much, who's done so many things, for anyone interested in following a career path similar to yours, what are some basic things you'd like to tell them to know or to cover?
Good question. I think I'm going to go back to, critical thinking. A lot, critical thinking takes you a very long way, and then curiosity takes you the rest of the way, right?
Yeah.
Because you can learn any technique, right? Techniques are techniques, but it's really in the application of techniques and going into your toolbox and saying, okay, well, I know how to do this, I know how to do this, I know how to do this. Putting together what's going to solve the problem, or how do I dig in and figure out from this massive amount of data what is the problem so that I can then solve the problem. So
This next question, right? You could choose to answer it. If not, since you are a very good critical thinker, what do you think this life is? What do you think this experience? Because I I see everything as ones and zeros, just with huge amounts of data. I see myself like a biological machine, and my brain is constantly computing, and I see everything around me. It's like everyone is working together. Money is being transferred here and there for something to be accomplished. Everything is just a matter of ones and zeros. What do you think this life is, and what do you think our purpose is? Or what do you think, what is your thoughts on that?
That's a really interesting question. And funnily enough, I don't see things necessarily as ones and zeros. Um, I do believe we all have um, talents and abilities, and it's our job to figure out what they are and to use them for good. One of the things that I am good at is encouraging and helping people succeed. And that's been one of the cornerstones of my career and my success is helping people succeed. Because if you succeed, then I succeed. And I think that, part of why I'm thoroughly enjoying being here is I can see things in students that they can't see themselves yet,
Yeah.
and I'd like to help them discover some of those really good things about themselves that they don't know yet and that they're only figuring out, and that's part of the journey in college. And so, I've had to figure things out, many times over.
Yeah.
But, I think that's part of why we're here is what's the path? And there is a path. There's always a path. It may not look straight, but there is a path and we're all following a path.
Yeah.
And it's, trying to help people appreciate what they bring because everybody brings something that's pretty unique and uniquely them.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for sparking my curiosity. Um, Being in your class, I was very excited to learn so many different things, and I am a very curious person. So, like you said, you like to see kids do better, and I just want to say thank you so much for being part of my journey. And I can't thank you enough for doing this podcast with me. Anything, if anybody would like to reach out to you from LinkedIn, how would they get a hold of you or anything
Um,
like that?
LinkedIn, it's Sharon Kratochvil
Yeah.
on LinkedIn. I am here on campus. Mandeville 209 is my office. My email is readily available. Reach out. I've mentored so many people, and I love doing that. It's very personally rewarding for me, and so I love this topic. I have had so much fun doing it over my entire career. And now, I'm really enjoying teaching and being able to share some of that and get to meet some of the pretty amazing students at University of Bridgeport.
All right. Thank you so much. Goodbye, everyone. I'll see you next time.